good morning, and welcome. You're tuned in and listening to Sharona Unfiltered. This is episode 7. That's amazing to me. I'm just amazed at and blessed to have all the support and all the great people who have donated their time and their efforts to help make this new fun little podcast such a success. And we've got a great show. Happy Monday, by the way. I had such an interesting weekend. I say interesting. I suppose it's probably interesting only to me. I finally had the crib all to myself. Roommate was out of town. And what did I do? I slept most of the weekend. So I don't know what's up with that. But Game of Thrones is back. Season 5 started last night. It was a great, great episode. I'm so excited. But we've got a big show today. We're going to talk about a number of topics. Hilary Clinton, the big announcement, I'm using air quotes there. Everybody knew that she was going to run for president. She finally made it official. She's going to start out in Iowa, to nobody's shock there either. We're going to talk about, Walton Scott, another incident. Eric Harris. There was a very good blog article, I believe it was over at Gawker, about why so many white people are silent on the issue of police brutality. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We talked about Walter Scott last week. Then we're going to talk some sports. I haven't really talked as much sports as I have wanted to. We're going to talk some sports today. We're going to talk about the NBA. We're going to give a big shout-out to my bae, Tim Duncan, Mr. Fundamental. Talk about the NBA playoffs. Johnny Manziel is out of rehab. Darrelle Revis and more, so stay tuned in. I am joined today by Natasha Paul, who is a writer for Black Sports Online. She also has her own website, Sports Talk Tasha, and I tweeted that out. Definitely check that out. So I'm very excited to have her, and I'm going to bring her in now. And, of course, I have to hook her up with some bumper music.
She's just a girl and she's on fire, hotter than a fantasy, lonely like a highway. She's living in a world and it's on fire, filled with catastrophe, but she knows she can fly away. Oh, she got both feet on the...
All right, Natasha, thanks for joining me. Now, do you go by Natasha or do you go by Tasha?
Either or, Sharona. It works either way. Call me whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well, I want to call you what you like. Listen, I am a big fan of little nicknames, and I like to shorten people's names anyway. I love
right
Tasha.
Ahead.
So we'll probably stick with Tasha. Yeah, we'll stick with that. Thanks again for joining me. I'm so excited to have you this morning. I want to start. We're going to have a guest later on in the show. One of my other co-hosts on my Wednesday night show, Going for Two with Zach and Sharona. He's going to join us in the final 30 minutes of the show. We're going to talk to him about a number of things, but I want to start with your website and writing for Black Sports Online. What led you to start your own sports-related website?
Well, I have always been, a talker about sports. I'm always a person in my family that's just annoying everyone about sports every single day. And my cousins and I have this little WhatsApp chat that we talk to each other every single day on. So finally, they were like, listen, if you don't just do this, we're just going to start the site for you, and then you can do whatever you want. And that's actually what they did. They created the site, and they're like, this is how you post on it, so go ahead. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then it got to a point where I saw that Robert Littall from BSO was hiring for writers. He was looking for writers. So I put my hat in the basket, and he picked me.
Well, he made an excellent selection. As you guys know, I also co-host another show with Vashti Hurd. She writes for Black Sports Online. That show airs every Friday, Game Over with Vashti and Sharona. He has several women writing for him at his website. So shout out to Robert for that. I always like to see women get opportunities, especially Black women and women of color, because as we know, that has long been an issue in sports media, that lack of representation.
Yes, it's very true. Just women in general. It's a it's a tough world for us, but it's not that we know less because we're a woman or we pay attention less because we're a woman.
No, it's not. It's interesting. I want to do a show that's dedicated to that, and that's dedicated to some of the double standards that women in the media, and not just media, not just sports media, I should say, but in media in general, but definitely, excuse me, sports media, because it's a different animal for us. I talked a little bit about it last week when talking about, we talked a little bit about Sarah Thomas and how it feels to be one of the first, or the first woman to to do something, and how that conversation goes, and how it's perceived, and that whole perception. Very, very, very interesting. And we are going to actually talk about Katie Nolan, who is a woman in sports media. She works for Fox Sports, has a new show, and I love Katie. I don't like the name of her new show, but if she's going to call out Clay Travis on the regular, I'm going to promise to make an effort to be very, very, very supportive of that show, because, frankly, not enough of that goes down. And if you followed me on Twitter or listened to me at all, you know that I think Clay Travis is one of the worst misogynist sports media. I used to call him out a lot more. Now I just don't like to give him that attention. But she definitely did. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about Nelly. Nelly got arrested back in sort of my hometown, I suppose. My sister lives in Cookeville, Tennessee, Putnam County, Tennessee. Nelly got arrested there. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Masters and an awesome story. The guy who won the Masters, his name is Jordan Spieth. His sister is a special needs child, and there was a great, great story over at Yahoo Sports regarding that. So we're going to talk about that. Lou Holtz is out. If we get time, I've been meaning to do this. I have not had an opportunity to do it. If we get time, I want to talk about the St. Louis Rams and their quote-unquote married to the game segment that they do, which bothers me in a way that I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to articulate. So talking about it may help with that. And then, as I said, we're going to have Zach Law on to talk about that. But we're going to start with sort of the big topic, I suppose, depending on whether or not you follow politics that closely. Do you follow politics that closely, Tasha?
You know what? I watch it a little. I pay attention to shows like The Daily Show, and John Oliver. I do watch Last Week Tonight, but they tend to put a spoof on all the real issues. I wouldn't say that I'm invested in politics, because to me you never know what's really going on. You never know the truth.
Exactly.
And you gotta peel through so many layers before you get there that it becomes exhausting. You're like, forget it.
It does. See, well, so we're just alike then. I used to follow politics a lot more closely than I do now. There's only so much, and I'm just speaking for myself now, there's only so much shadiness that I can handle at a time. You know what I'm saying? And it's a shady world. And sports media can be shady. That's about all the shady that I can take on the regular. But I definitely try to keep up, and I'm always interested in Hilary because of who she is and what she represents, and she has been the woman. Well, I almost hate to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. She's been the woman with the best chance to become our first president. There have been some other names out there, but Hillary comes with a set of issues that are fairly unique, and married to Bill Clinton, who was president, served 2 terms in the White House. We know how awesome and scandal-ridden those 2 terms were, with the Monica Lewinsky thing, and some of the shenanigans, that she and Bill engaged in. Listen, politics is shady, and I'm not.
Yes.
I ain't even mad at them. I mean, I ain't even mad at you, but I'm not.
It's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
They I think it gets to a point where I don't think they go into it thinking I'm just going to be shady and cutthroat and this is what I'm going to do to get to the top. But unfortunately, to get to the top, you do have to be a little shady and cutthroat sometimes, and especially in politics, because it's not like you can just go out there and be idealistic and say, I'm going to do good for the world, I'm going to change the country, I'm going to do this, and everyone will vote for you. They're going to look at you like you're crazy.
Well, you can still have that too, right, Tasha? I mean, you can still come to it with that mindset that you want to, make certain changes in the world, but with an understanding that to get there, to get to that pinnacle in order to make those changes, you got to do some things that you didn't necessarily grow up seeing yourself do. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and I was reading, you guys know that I'm a big fan of Gawker and what they do. I don't always agree. In fact, sometimes I vehemently don't agree with some of the things that they do. But generally speaking, I think that they do really, really good work, and they're a great aggregator. And so I read Jezebel, the blog Jezebel, the feminist blog Jezebel, and they had a very interesting article. I sent it to Tasha, and it said, it was talking about Hilary Clinton's campaign and all the problems that it already has. There was a huge list of things in that article. It really goes back to, in my mind, to three main things. The Bill Clinton problem, which we sort of alluded to right there. Really the email scandal, but the email scandal is all wrapped up in what the Clinton dynasty is, what it means, and how they got there. So, the email thing is big. When it came out, I said that if anything ever took Hillary down, or the Clintons, because it's not just Hillary, it's the Clintons. You can't really separate. That's another problem that Hillary's going to have, separating herself from Bill and showing that she's her own woman. But anyway, and then the third thing is, how does she, because women are very divided. Hillary's so divisive. Women are largely supportive, mostly supportive of her, even though they might not necessarily agree with everything she does and everything that she stands for. But there is something to be said for being the first woman. You know what I'm saying? And for that, she's going to have that draw. But how does she? First of all, how does she explain some of the things that are going to cause her problems? And then second, how does she translate that into vote for me? And it's not just women. It's particularly younger women who didn't grow up knowing who Monica Lewinsky was. That happened almost 20 years ago. That's been a long time ago. And
what's really funny about that, Sharona, is that I was my 18-year-old niece who was in the car with me, and something about this Bill and Hillary thing came up, and Monica Lewinsky came up. I think we were listening to a radio program, and I looked at her and I asked her, do you even know who Monica Lewinsky is? And she said she has no clue.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Yeah,
18 years old, never heard of Monica Lewinsky.
Well, and there's some good reasons for that. It's not that, listen, I am not suggesting by any means that younger women aren't as clued in as older women. Monica Lewinsky took herself out of the spotlight. You didn't hear anything from her. You didn't hear anything from her for a long, long time. And, regardless of what you may think about that incident, there's a lot to respect about Monica Lewinsky. And, she's speaking out now. She is giving speeches across the country, and talking about. She's really talking about some topics that we should pay attention to. What it's like to be sort of thrust into the media spotlight. How the media spotlight can be so harsh on women, and we're going to talk about Madonna too. Don't never fear. We're going to talk about you, Madonna. I make fun all the time, and I laugh about it, saying that I started this show because I wanted to talk about Madonna, and in large part that's true. I also wanted to talk about Hilary too. So it's kind of funny. My first show involved Hilary and Madonna, and it's funny. Here we are, 7 shows later, still talking about those issues. But it's interesting, and women have, I think, good instincts and a really good feel for cutting through the bullshit and getting to the heart of things. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this show, to talk about issues that that concern women, because we have a voice, and that voice is important, and it needs to be heard. So I'm definitely not knocking younger women. There's a good reason why they might not know, but obviously they're going to become familiar with that. Did you by any chance ask her about Hilary, how she felt about Hilary?
For her, she I think a lot of people, especially, the young women, they don't see many more options other than Hillary as far as the Democratic candidates. There isn't. And so, as far as she's looking at Hillary, I mean, in her eyes, she's going to vote for Hillary because there isn't another better option in her eyes. And that's what it's coming down to.
Yeah,
now,
I think I think that's important. Go ahead. Please, go ahead.
Now, what's going to happen is, there isn't a better option than Hillary as for the Democratic vote, but when you come against the other parties, specifically the larger party that's, pretty much running Congress right now, Republicans, Hillary's going to face tougher candidates. People know these candidates well. They're very vocal. They, so it's going to be a tougher fight for her as far as, the presidential election portion of it. I think the Democratic portion of it, she's pretty much got it. And it's really funny because I was watching Saturday Night Live because, I'm a loser and stay home and watch Saturday Night Live.
They had a great skit. They had a great opening skit on Hillary.
And I was like, if this is the most perfect skit about what it means to be Hilary Clinton, then I don't know.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Extremely well done. You brought up an interesting point that I definitely wanted to talk about, where Hillary is concerned. As part of the because I don't follow politics as closely as I feel like I should. I did a lot of research over the weekend, taking a look at Hillary and at some of the issues that are going to plague her, at least according to all the pundits out there. And you brought it up. It's interesting. She's not going to face much opposition in the Democratic primary. She does seem like she's the candidate. Creepy Uncle Joe Biden might. He's remained sort of uncommitted either way. Joe Biden, while I love a lot of things about Joe Biden, he is that creepy uncle that you avoid in the corners at the family gatherings. You don't want to be alone in the room with him. You don't want to be caught in the car with him, or you always want to be around creepy Uncle Joe Biden with backup. So he's Joe. Do you have that response to him?
Yeah, I just think with Joe Biden doesn't really have a filter at all. So with him, it's whatever he wants to give you. You that's it. So I don't think I've never, as long as Joe Biden has been VP, I've never gotten the impression that it was ever an option for him to run for president.
Yeah, I don't think that it is, really. I mean, I think that he likes having his name out there. I agree with you. And listen, this show is called Sharona Unfiltered. I'm Team Unfiltered. And again, there are a lot of things that I like about Joe Biden, but on occasions, in my opinion, inappropriate advances toward women.
Oh, yeah.
He's very touchy-feely. He's very touchy-feely in ways that make me uncomfortable. And so if the choice came down to Hillary with all her problems and Joe Biden with all his, I would take Hillary and her problems over Joe Biden any day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that one. Just because, you just never know what to expect from Joe Biden next. And if there's a woman in the room, then you really don't know what to expect. So
he's going to get freaky deaky if there's a woman in the room, I mean, that's just what it is. That's just how he rolls. And again, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that creeps me out, and it gives me the creeps. And so anyway, do you think that Hillary is going to be able to appeal to that younger vote?
She's going to have to figure out a way. I'm sure she's going to have people who are going to help her out. That's
she's
what
gonna have Chelsea out there, isn't she? She's gonna trot Chelsea out.
And Chelsea's actually, I like Chelsea a lot because she's obviously she's the daughter of a very famous president, and her mom has always been in the spotlight as well. And Chelsea's kind of very laid back, and she hasn't made much fuss, and you still know she's there, but she's not this over aggressive, she doesn't give that vibe that like you said would creep somebody out, or she's kind of really inviting, and her personality, she's a good person, to for Hillary to involve, to bring more appeal to her campaign trail, just because of how she's carried herself throughout the years with her parents and dealing with that. She's a really good example of how not to let your parents screw you up.
Exactly. I was going to say, not quite as eloquently as you did, but I was going to make that same point. Chelsea Clinton, she's got a married name now. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it is. She'll always and forever be Chelsea Clinton, that awkward, less than attractive, only female child growing up in the White House, and what was said about her, because she wasn't the most attractive young woman as she was growing up, what was said about her in the media was awful. Having to live and grow up in that spotlight had to be incredibly difficult, and yet she did grow up in it, and she comes across as sincere and warm and gracious and kind. And I agree with you. I think that she's a great example of at least someone who on the surface, because you don't know who people are underneath that public persona, but at least on the surface, she's like one of us. She's one of us.
Yeah. She's a normal girl.
Yeah. And just getting to that point that I was trying to make, what you said about not having much opposition, there was an article that I read that said that was going to cause her trouble because she would not go into the main part of the race against the Republicans as some sort of battle-tested candidate. And I thought, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, and I just don't know. I'm not sure I buy that. Listen, the Clinton political machine, if anybody is well tested, it's that machine, right? Because they've been in it a long time. I agree that it would probably good for Hillary to get some skirmishes out early on in the campaign, and have some of her official positions more well known. See, that is the other thing that I think Hillary is going to struggle with. Who is Hilary Clinton, and what does she really stand for? Not Hillary, the Secretary of State for Barack Obama, not Hillary, the wife to Bill Clinton. What does Hillary Clinton, the presidential candidate, stand for? And I think more than anything, how she defines herself there is going to make or break her campaign.
Yeah, and, the thing about Hillary is very stoic. And, what they're going to need to do is they're going to need to humanize her a little bit more so that, like you said, we see
they are.
Who is Hillary Clinton, because we know her as the politician and we know her as the wife, but we don't know who she is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really want to I'm going to talk more about Hillary in the shows to come, but we've got a lot of other topics that we want to talk about, and I definitely wanted to talk about Eric Harris, return to the Walton Scott discussion that we had last Wednesday. There was a very good article on one of Gawker's, their Justice subblog, and it's called White America's Silence on Police Brutality is Consent. It's written by Donovan X. Ramsey. I'm not familiar. I read their stuff a lot. I'm not familiar with this particular writer, but it is interesting. We talked last Wednesday about Walter Scott, and I've said this, even going back to the Michael Brown, Tamir Rice. Where are all the good cops? Why aren't we all know that there are good cops out there, right? I mean, we know that. Why aren't we hearing from the good cops? And that's part of this article. Then the second part of that is, why is white America largely silent on this issue, and why does white America still continue to buy into that, the perception that anytime a cop kills a black male, it's justified? And I think that is something that we need to talk about more. We need to explore more. I don't know the answer to this, but I know that it's a real thing, and it's concerning to me.
Yeah, it absolutely is, because the fact is that there is good and bad in everything. So obviously, that there are good police officers. There are police officers who, treat people with respect and understand that instead of going to kill someone, you can disarm them or disable them by, taking a shot to the leg or something, instead of trying to shoot them in the back or whatever it is. But I don't know why white America is silent on this. I can't speak for. Go ahead.
Let me throw something at you as we've been sitting here talking about it, and as I was sitting here pondering this question. I wonder if it has something to do with how the media handles these incidents. When we saw it with Walter Scott, the initial reports out of that incident, there was no questioning. It was, black male with a history, with a criminal history, comes after a cop, completely justified. And I wonder if our media in general, as a whole, would be a little bit more careful about how they cover these. Now, there are some good reporters out there covering these things. And let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it wrong. But let's face it, they're primarily black people. And I'm so drawn. It's Monday morning. I'm drawing a blank. The guy, Walter, Mr. Lowry. Wesley Lowry. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I couldn't think of his name. This is how bad I am on names, because I admire.
Okay, that's fine.
He's just such a. Oh my, it's right. exactly why you're here, to keep me straight. He does Wesley Lowery. He does such a great job. If you're not
Yes.
following him, what are you doing with your life? You need to follow him. You need to read his articles. And he's not the only one. Jamil Smith is another guy. And there are white people. Sean King is very, very, very active. Lisa Bloom is very, very, very active in this community. But in large part, the general media does not take an active role here, and it's not particularly careful about how it covers these things. And I wonder if it did a better job at doing its job, if we might, maybe start to see that tide turning. So I don't know. That's just, that's just kind of my thought.
It's going to be, as far as the media portion of it, the media covering it, I think the media a lot of times they just want to get the story up, So instead of getting everything and getting all the facts together, just get the story up. So the first thing that people are going to see is this blaring new headline, and it just feels like it's a new headline every other week. It's another, white cop, black man is dead. Where do we go from here? So it's going to continue, because you're still going to have those people who just want to get the story up, as opposed to the people who actually want to get the true story up and what's really going on and break it down. And unfortunately, you can't control who the readers are turning to. It's whoever they click on first. So with everything, you have to take it, like I said, that there is good and there's bad, and the reader has to also take some accountability to say, okay, I'm going to read this and I'm going to get all the facts before I go straight to judgment.
Yeah.
Now, with what's going on, there are way too many cases being reported. There's one that happened right here in South Florida, right around, not too far away from where I live, of a police officer, and it was very similar to the Walton Scott case in South Carolina. So there's just too many stories being reported, and what we have to do as a population, we have to take the accountability. And I think with police officers, as far as the good cops not speaking up, I think that you saw this in Ferguson. It was like the cops wanted to rally around, and we have to be. It's a brotherhood. We have to be supportive of each other, and that's what they're being told. That's systematically what's going on. It's a brotherhood. We have to stick together. We can't let people think that there's this or that going on. And, the good cops, they need to speak up and say, hey, we know this is going on. We're still here. And that's what they need to let the community know, that the good cops are still here, and they're going to try to do something to fix their own system so that it doesn't continue to happen. I don't want to wake up every week hearing another black man has been killed by a white police officer. It's I feel like there's been so much fight for civil rights and equality and what have you, and I feel like it's going backwards now, because all of these reports, and social media has really brought the attention to all of these things. All of these reports, we would probably never hear about them if it wasn't for Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But social media is really bringing to light what's really going on. And unfortunately, it feels like we're going backwards. And if minorities as a whole don't come together and say, instead of saying, well, we kill each other, no, don't say that. You have to say, no, whether it's a black on black or a white on black, we have to stop it, period, because it's killing someone is not right. It's not right.
I completely, I completely agree with what you just said. I think what I'm trying to say, without saying it very well, is that may, in a media that is still largely white dominated and white controlled, maybe we as white people, and I'm white, I'm to look at me, I'm the whitest person you probably could imagine, even though there's I've said this before, my father, on the other hand, not so much, because he shows his Native American heritage, but I think we as white people, in a white controlled media, I think sometimes we bring our own biases to to the table. Unfortunately, when we cover things, you see it too. It's interesting because you see it too, and I pay a lot of attention to this when women talk about misogyny and sexism in sports. It gets treated very differently than when a white male calls it out and talks about it, in large part in sports media. And I think that you see it's almost that same situation when we're talking about police brutality. You want, everyone has a voice and everybody should be respected and whatnot, but it's almost like when one section talks about it, for whatever reason, it gets more attention, if that makes any sense.
You're right. It's whoever has the more powerful voice, and for as far as a voice, men have a more powerful voice than women. In that example that you just gave.
Yeah. So, and the flip side of that is women talking about it. We're just the spoiled sports who don't want to have it. We won't let men be men, boys be boys, and we're just fun killers. Here come the fun police. Here come the fun police. The fun police are here to, to ruin your Madonna slander. I mean, right? So let's go ahead and ruin your Madonna slander. I wanted to talk a little bit about Madonna before we turn to sports, and we're going to have to do that pretty quickly. And thanks to Tasha for turning me on to this. I had completely missed Madonna kissing Drake. Listen, if there are two more thirsty entertainers in this world than Madonna and Drake, I don't know who they are. Unless maybe it's Tyrese. I don't know. But if you missed it, Madonna and Drake were on stage together at Coachella, and Drake don't need to come up to us with some big surprise look on his face, because he knew that kiss was going down, right?
I think he definitely.
He was all leaned back. Yeah, he knew that kiss was coming, and Madonna laid one on him, and then he comes up with that. Well, what whack look on his face? I don't know. A lot being made about, and I made a joke about it. Is that making out, or was that he knew that kiss was coming? I don't think that this is a situation where Drake is all surprised that, and Madonna kisses a lot of people on stage. I think we all know that too.
Just about everybody she's on stage with, they can be prepared that they're going to make out with Madonna. That's it.
If you don't want Madonna's thirsty ass kissing you on stage, don't get on stage with Madonna.
There you go.
Okay? But I'm so tired of Madonna too, right? I mean, I know that
she's 56 years old now, and she looks great for 56 years old.
She does. She looks great.
But listen, if my job was to wake up every day and look fabulous, then guess what? I would look fabulous every day. So
a lot of work goes into these. Yeah. These celebrities put a lot of work into maintaining their bodies and looking, and they've got the money and the resources and the time to do it, and more power to them. And I don't have, Madonna's got a young boyfriend. I don't have a problem with that. I think a lot of what Madonna does is good. She still looks as good as she does, and she still somewhat relevant and maintains and whatever, she still sells in an entertainment business that is extremely hard on women, especially older women. There's a lot to like and admire about what Madonna does. And having said that, if in fact the kiss, it's so hard, right? Because Drake had to know he was going to get kissed.
No,
did the kiss go too hard? Did the kiss go too hard for Drake? Well, there's just something very uncomfortable about that.
Yeah, I think he definitely knew she was going to kiss him, but I just don't think he knew that it was going to be as all in as it was. I don't think. Because she even slapped his hand away at one point. Like, he was trying to push her up, and she's like, no.
He was trying to come up for air? I didn't watch it that closely. I admit it.
So, yeah, I think he definitely knew. He just didn't realize what it was going to be. And I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think she might have left some spit in his mouth, and it kind of grossed him out a little.
Well, there's nothing worse than a spit lever. There's nothing worse than a gross ass kiss that is just too slivey.
I get it. Yeah. They're performing, and they're going to make money off the kiss, but at least do it well. If I'm going to have to kiss you for my career, do it well.
Listen, you can tongue twirl without leaving too much of your saliva in somebody else's mouth. And if you're not skilled at that, you just need to do better.
Exactly. Or just make the kiss shorter. Don't go as much. There's ways around this. So instead of, people looking at this video and thinking, oh, my God, Drake was so grossed out that he got kissed by this 56-year-old woman, then they're looking like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. It was a kiss. Huh?
Yeah, no, Drake's thirsty ass knew that kiss was coming. Come on. Yeah, no. But and I have to say this. The Madonna slander was understandable within certain boundaries, but it got pretty awful pretty quick, and it got extremely misogynistic. It got extremely stereotypical. Ageism is definitely a real thing, and it descended to a level that was pretty gross in and of itself, and extremely misogynistic toward Madonna, which shocks probably nobody listening to me right now. But anyway, but I want to close out the Madonna segment just by saying this one thing. I hope that Drake knew that kiss was coming, and a lot of this was just an act to get attention, because they are thirsty. We know that. But if, in fact, Drake did not, and I don't think that there's a shred of truth to what I'm about to pose as a hypothetical, but if Drake did not know he was going to get kissed, which I think that he did, but if he did not know, let me remind you, we talked about this with Dick Vitale and Ashley Judd. Kissing someone without their permission, without their consent, is wrong. It's wrong. You shouldn't do it. You should do better. And I'm still shocked at the lack of outrage over what Dick Vitale did to Ashley Judd. So, all right.
Yeah. What can you say? Continue.
Yeah. Come on. All right. I want to talk about the NBA playoffs, give a shout-out to Tim Duncan. But before we get there, talked about Johnny Manziel last Wednesday, I believe. He's now out of rehab. Congratulations to Johnny Manziel for not only for that decision, but for successfully completing the program. And, I hope that he learned something from it. I hope that he's in a better place now. And, and I hope that he gets every opportunity to earn back the respect, of his teammates and of the Cleveland Browns organization.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of people will take their shots at Manziel, but I do respect him for going into rehab, for recognizing he has a problem. And I feel like he was legitimately in rehab. You didn't hear a peep from him.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And like you said, I hope he learned something. And I hope he does have his opportunity to get a second chance, as would anybody in that situation. You know, if you take the steps to make yourself a better person and you do the right things afterward, then people should give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. Wishing nothing but success and a warm welcome and all good things for Johnny Manziel. On the other hand, Darrelle Revis. Got to tell you, Darrelle Revis, listen, the hacked excuse is so 2013.
So old.
It's not even 2014. It's 2013. Listen, you control your social media account, and you've got a history of going after trolls, not just on your Instagram, but on your Twitter. You went after some trolls, and then came back with that old lame, I was hacked excuse. Listen, playa, say it with your chest. If you're going to engage with a bunch of trolls on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Snapchat, I don't care. Own up to it. Say it with your chest.
Yep. You knew what you were doing when you typed, I did Bill and Brady a favor. So,
right.
I mean,
and some of it's funny, you know. I mean, some of it's funny. Listen, if you're an athlete, if you're a famous person, and you do something that you later regret and I do it all the time. I'm not famous, but I do it all the time. Just own it. Say, I probably, in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have engaged, but I hope y'all liked it. And, but don't listen, we're smarter than that. Don't insult my intelligence. That's, that's lame. Don't insult my intelligence. I got to talk about this real quick before we get to Katie Nolan. Darren Sharper's whack. What he did was whack. Darren Sharper, I think we can drop the alleged now, serial rapist who had a raping spree throughout the continental, as far as we know, the continental United States, has now pled guilty. I think that he's resolved all of his cases. He's going to serve 9 years, about half of the 20-year sentence that he received as part of his multi-state plea deal, which is very unusual. But we got this report. It was on OBSO wrote about it. I had tweeted out the Deadspin article listen. Y'all know me. I'm not Team Darren Sharper by any means whatsoever, but I have issues with something that is allegedly going to take place when he gets out. I am not exactly sure that I'm going to probably mispronounce this. I am not exactly sure I know what penile plethysmograph is or what it does, but it looks like junk science to me.
Yeah, it sounds like they're putting the little, what do you call the little ankle bracelet on his penis?
They're putting a pump on little Darren Sharper, and I just don't know why. Why do we? And apparently it measures state of arousal. Why do we care if Darren Sharper is still able to get a boner after he gets out of prison? Is that a bad thing? Do we want him not to ever have another boner for the rest of his life? I'm not down with that. Listen, I know Darren Sharper was accused of rape. Hey, maybe we just make sure that Darren Sharper doesn't make it to any bars or nightclubs putting date rape drugs in his victims' drinks. I don't care if he gets a boner. If he wants to masturbate, I'm pretty much okay with that.
It's the strangest thing I've ever heard of, and I mean, his sentence alone. If you were worried about, making him feel repercussions for what he's done, 9 years or whatever it is for how many ever rape victims seems a little tame. Number one, and then number two, like you said, who cares about after he gets out of prison? If he wants to jerk off or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. If he wants to have consensual sex, I don't care
Exactly.
what do we expect? I mean, the next thing you know, we're going to be talking about castration. We're going to be talking about castration, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with rape, but I'm not okay with this or with legal castration, which is really a thing in some parts of this country
What I would think
Yeah.
they would try to do more than, put a penis monitor on him would, get him therapy while he's in prison to help him, because this is a problem. So if you're just going to put him in prison for 9 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and then let him go and say, okay, if you're back in the world, then guess what? He's probably going to do it again, If you have no rehabilitation, then what's the point?
Yeah, that's to me, I don't want my taxpayer money going to fund something like that. That really does offend me.
It's right up there with like a $10,000 toilet seat in the White House.
Yeah, really, seriously. Man, that's just crazy. All right, got to talk about Katie Nolan if you haven't. And I don't read Clay Travis's blog, but let me pull it up here real quick. Clay Travis has a blog. It's called Outkick the Coverage. It's called Outkick the Coverage, by the way, because he married a former, at the time she was a Tennessee Titans cheerleader, and so he named his blog after his prowess in so-called outkicking his coverage, by marrying this very attractive female. Again, I find a lot of what Clay Travis does to be extremely misogynistic. I was forced to boycott 105 The Zone here in Nashville because of that. It was a lot of times just extremely unlistenable. But anyway, Katie Nolan also works at Fox Sports. Clay Travis is now affiliated with Fox Sports college football coverage. Apparently there was an article, a blog on his blog that was titled "How to Land a Husband at the Masters." Yeah, it was. There were a lot of questions about whether this was written by Clay Travis himself or written under a pseudonym, Rebecca Johnson. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to read an article that is titled "How to Land a Husband at the Masters." This is quintessential Clay Travis. Women are only important in their level of attractiveness and what they bring to the table in terms of their sexuality, not their brains, not their intelligence, not anything except their attractiveness. That's his game, and he's going to stick with it. So Katie Nolan called him out. Good for Katie. A lot of good things going on with her and her show. It's called Garbage Time. It airs on Fox Sports. And I have not had a chance to check out the Taylor segment, but I'm going to. Shout out to Katie for that.
I actually did watch it, and one of the pieces from the pseudonym Rebecca Johnson's piece was basically like dress appropriately because face it, you're not there for golf or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, I guess if you see a woman at a PGA Tour event, she's most likely not there for golf. She's trying to find a husband.
Yeah. Well, that's his mindset. That's Clay Travis's mindset. If there's a woman at a sporting event, she's fair game for whatever. She's just there to, she's just there to be seen.
With
and
me.
She can only be judged. She can only be judged by her level of attractiveness. That's it. So. Shout out to Katie for that.
You know what a birdie is.
It's just awful. I got to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs and give a shout out to my bae, Tim Duncan. You guys know I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, and I tweeted it out. Tim Duncan is still getting it done. He's still doing that thing at, I think he's 38, 39 years old. The Spurs have clinched. They're going to make the playoffs, of course. I think right now they're in second place. I tried to look at the NBA playoffs, the various scenarios this morning. It made my head hurt.
Yeah, it's not. It's especially in the West. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's so nuts.
So
yeah. Are you a big NBA fan?
I love sports, period. But yeah, I definitely watch the NBA, and I'm right now where I am with the Western Conference is I'm not even trying to predict until I see something firm at the end, because there's just so much happening. And I'm with you. I love Tim Duncan. He's just a normal guy who knows how to play basketball. He doesn't make a big fuss. He doesn't show off. He's not, a social media, I need to be seen everywhere at all times. And you got to love it.
I don't even think he has a Twitter. I don't think he has a Twitter
either.
Does he have a Facebook or an Instagram? I doubt it. I mean, I would listen. I would love it if someone on the Spurs could get Tim Duncan on any social media platform. I promise not to fangirl you too much, but I'll have to a little bit. But yeah, he's great and still doing it. It's interesting, Memphis is clinched too. They're in the Western Conference as well. They kind of faded a little bit, and they've really struggled, especially lately. But they're still in it. I'm very curious to see how the Western Conference does end up. It's been the Hawks in the East.
It's been the Hawks, but then, you had a little incident in New York City, and now everyone's saying, well, that just leaves the door wide open for the Cavs.
Mhm. Yeah, and who would have thought that the Cavs would have roared back and been where they are now? I mean, the NBA has been fascinating to me this season. It really has been. I wanted to talk a little bit about Michelle Roberts and that incident that you just referenced, but we're not going to have time, unfortunately, because we'll always have run out of time on these topics. But I've got to talk about Nelly because I have to tell you guys my reaction when I saw the story about Nelly. First of all, I saw the headline: Nelly arrested in Putnam County, Tennessee. And of course, I'm in Tennessee, very familiar with Putnam County. My sister lives there. I have family there. I've lived there. Great place. It's beautiful there. So I saw the headlines, and then I saw the charges. He was arrested with weed and meth. A fairly significant amount of weed and meth, and I was like, oh yeah, well, okay, Putnam County, Nelly, weed, meth, all right, all makes complete and total sense. So I was like, why is Nelly, was he doing a concert there? What's the deal? And the reason why I say that is because that area, the Middle Tennessee, Upper Cumberland area, it has been known to have somewhat of a meth problem, and if you listen to some people, you might think that there's a lot of weed grown there too. I personally would have no knowledge of any of those events, so don't come after me. There are any cops listening out there, don't be coming after me. I'm completely clean. But apparently he was just driving through, and so I was like, it wasn't a concert, he was just driving through. But a little interesting story that Nelly was actually arrested in a place that I knew, and so definitely had to mention that. I like some of Nelly's music, but his history just is skeevy.
Well, Nelly is, I don't know what to make of Nelly, because he first came out as this rapper, and then he started doing country music, and I honestly, I didn't even know Nelly made music for a long time. Did not know that for a long time. And no, I really didn't, because he's been on the country music scene so heavy. So, and it's not that I don't like country music. I just don't listen to it too often, because I'm actually from the Caribbean, so I listen to a lot of like reggae and soca, that kind of music.
Yeah.
So, you hear about people getting arrested for marijuana all the time. It seems so commonplace now. But the thing that worries me about Nelly, I'm kind of worried for him, is why are you with? It's just not meth he was with. He was with meth rocks. That's pretty harsh stuff. What's going on, Nelly? You need an intervention quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that a little bit more. Now I'm glad to know that. It's always, especially meeting new people, I didn't know, really what your music tastes were. So choosing bumper music is always interesting. And speaking of which, we've got my buddy, Zach Law, on the line. I've got to set him up with some bumper music. Zach, I know you're listening. I did not know what to choose for you either, so here you go. All right, we're joined by Zach Law now. Zach, I have to tell you, it's interesting. I don't even know how many shows we've done together now, but it's a bunch. I don't even know what music you listen to. This is wrong.
You can hit some hardcore. They Don't Be Giants next time, and we'll be doing just fine. And I bet you don't even know what that is.
I do not know what that is. I'll have to get on the Google machine and find. And find that out. So I had to hit you with something that was, kind of different and a little bit funny to me. The whole Rock Me Amadeus thing, Raucous, Zach, Raucous. Listen, Zach is a fantasy football writer. He, as I mentioned, he puts up with me usually every Wednesday night on Going for Two with Zach and Sharona. He is a long-suffering Tennessee Titans fan, lives in Atlanta. A lot of things I want to ask Zach about, besides his music taste. By the way, I can hear Chewy in the background.
Yeah, I might have to mute because my cat wants to be part of every show I do.
Yeah, he does. Chewy is we talked about being thirsty for attention. Chewy is definitely as thirsty for attention as Madonna and Drake.
But maybe they get quickly bored, too, after 5 minutes and curl up on the stage and fall asleep, because that's kind of what he does.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah, but I will warn you not to put Chewy up on the stage with Madonna, because she'll tongue kiss him.
Oh, he'd probably be okay with that. He's all right with affection.
All right, so they say that there is no, I know, right? They say there's no off season. It's mostly true, and it is definitely a dead period right now. What do fantasy writers do in the off season, Zach?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for giving a white male a chance to talk about sports. I know it's unusual; it doesn't happen very often. So
you are my.
I got this point of view that you're just not going to understand.
You're my second white male guest, so you should definitely feel you should feel that privilege.
At least you can say you have a friend. Yeah, it's really kind of boring right now. Like Stevan Ridley signed last week. If you're into the whole skill position player, I heard he got a tattoo of the Jets already, which is going to be on the level of the Kentucky undefeated and back-to-back Seattle Super Bowl. I seem to remember, I make the joke because I'm not that young. In my day, people got tattoos after teams won championships, But, hey, what are you going to do? So, yeah, if I'm talking about tattoos, that means it is kind of boring. Basically, right now, people are either kind of hibernating or going into rehab for watching too much film with Johnny Football.
My question to I forgot his name, Stevan Ridley, Zach, was, where's your Patriots tattoo? Where's your Patriots tattoo?
Did he get one? Because, all I heard was,
no. I don't think he ever had a Patriots tattoo, but he now has this giant Jets tattoo for whatever reason. Yeah,
it is it's strange. the only thing I could think of course, he's not even coaching the Jets anymore. But the image that immediately popped into my mind was Rex Ryan, right? Who infamously got the tattoo of his wife in a Jets uniform tattoo somewhere on his body. I don't remember where. I think it was his ankle. But anyway,
his leg. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, had a very interesting, to say the least, tenure as the New York Jets head coach, and is now a Buffalo Bills head coach. And he got that darkened and changed too. So, yeah.
The power of color.
Yeah, Bill Belichick is never. He likes to discard his draft picks a lot, like Madonna probably discards her boyfriend. So you can't take it that personally, because he just kind of redoes the team every 4 years, and it works because I guess the rest of the AFC is just that dumb.
Now, Zach, do you have a tattoo, a Pac-Man tattoo, Jake Locker, Chris Johnson? Where's your Titans tattoo?
See, if I ever were into tattoos, being a Titans fan and getting one would definitely take that desire away. I mean, I'm bad enough with jerseys. In my closet, I have a Jake Locker, which used to be a Vince Young. I have a Chris Johnson in there, and I have the famous Pac-Man with the actual Pac-Man sewn on the front, because, that's one of my mom's habits, is sewing things on jerseys.
Your mom's awesome. Your mom is awesome.
Yeah. Don't we all know? Yeah,
now,
so,
but,
I don't know.
Okay,
I always like tattoo. Like, go ahead if, that's something you really want to do. But it's like, for me, it'd be like, what would be so important to me that I'd want it on me forever? And if it's related to sports, it's probably not going to go well.
If somebody said, Zach, I'd give you $1 million for you to put a Tennessee Titans player tattoo somewhere on your body, who would you pick? Who would get that awesome selection?
I don't know. That'd be a tough one, Would we go with the McNair, or there's a lot associated with that?
It'd have to be Mac.
Yeah, the Pac-Man for joke effect.
Yeah, I would think so.
And if it's $1 million, am I going for the face? I mean, is that obvious? Or the neck? Every time I see a tattoo, I think that was more painful than the last one I saw.
See, I don't think I could ever. Yeah. I don't have a tattoo. I'm not anti-tattoo. I have literally almost gone twice to get one and chickened out, mostly because A, I don't like needles, and B, I don't like pain. So I don't have one, but I love ink. I think ink is beautiful, but I just don't think that I could get, even if I were totally down for the permanency and the pain and the needles and all of that. I just don't think you could ever put a needle anywhere near my face and me sit still for it.
I can tell you this, Sharona. I do have a tattoo. I got it in college because, of course, that's what you do when you're in college. You go get a tattoo.
Yeah.
So it was pretty painful, but I was always saying that I would do it again, but I just never got around to it. I had my daughters, and of course it's not cute to get, a tattoo when you're pregnant, or you can't do it actually. And
where is your tattoo?
It's on my stomach, like the lower left side of my stomach. And okay. I can tell you, it was the most painful 30 minutes of my life. Labor was easier than that tattoo. I promise.
Oh, yeah? See,
yes.
You're not selling this whole tattoo thing for me, Tasha. I actually went with two girlfriends. One got a little rose tattooed on her right hip, and I forget what my other girlfriend got. It wasn't on. I forget where she got hers. But I think that if I were ever to get one, it would probably be the hip buttocks area.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a cute area for a woman, and
that's an area that nobody's going to see it unless you want them to.
Exactly. That's exactly why I did it where I put it. And when I wear a swimsuit, my daughters see it and they're like, "Mommy, what is this?" And I'm like, "I'll explain it to you later, girl."
Now, Zach, where would you put your tattoo? Your hypothetical tattoo?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Make it public or not. I don't know if the face of the neck's not available. Yeah, sure. We'll go with the tramp stamp.
I think that's perfect. It has to be the
There
tramp
is
stamp.
no off season, but that's a lot of words, and I guarantee I'd be one of those people on BuzzFeed or whatever with my tattoo being misspelled.
Would you do a tattoo of Steve McNair, a tramp stamp tattoo of Steve McNair for $1 million?
Gosh. Huh. Cash? Sure. Oh, yeah. I'm already saying this is going to be recorded. No NSA, how you doing? Yeah, this is on there.
Oh, my gosh. Too funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Moving on.
You would, Zach. Come on. Listen, own it, Zach. You totally would get a trash stamp of Steve McNair on your lower back. You do it for $200,000. We know it. You do it. Own it.
I do it for $75 in pennies. I don't know. I was just thinking back to Matthew Berry, because the fantasy football angle and the fact that he did this. What's the worst thing a fantasy football league made their last place team do? And there's a league that famously makes their last place team get a tattoo.
Yep.
And one was Justin Bieber, and I think one was Tim Tebow or something. There was a unicorn involved.
Yeah, Sharona.
We just rename our team. That's bad enough.
Because
I would never play on that.
The guy who gets the tattoo, his tattoo is chosen by the other teams, so he doesn't even have options. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I don't trust people enough to do that. No way. Oh, wow. All right, Zach, you're one of the few people I know who has written and actually published a book online. Tell us about that process. What led up to it, and what made you think, hey, I'm going to write a book and publish it online?
Well, I've taken a shot at some fiction, and there's always a lot of hoops to jump through to get published, although you could probably go through the same self-publishing concept. But I just started doing my fantasy football interviews because I got back into fantasy football writing, and I realized so many people were doing it. Why not just interview the experts instead of pretending to be an expert? So after I'd done about 50 of them, my wife was like, well, I don't make it into an ebook. So it was just like a matter of getting it formatted a specific way and submitting it to Amazon and getting it on there. And speaking of $1 million, I'm probably like $1 million in sales on those two books. But yeah, I got my interviews 1 through 50 and 51 through 100 are available online.
Now, you mentioned it. You mentioned Allison. Yeah, it really is. You mentioned Allison, who is, speaking of awesome, who is awesome. What is it like
putting
to
up with me? Speaking of awesome.
Yeah, well, but I do want to point out though that Allison will forever remain a fictional awesome until you actually do introduce us.
Well, you've been introduced on Google Hangout. That's as close as we've gotten.
We've been introduced on the Twitter machine and on Google, but I want to meet Allison in real life. But anyway, so what is it like to live in a two-writer household?
Well, sometimes it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. I was working on a video project I was doing, and the reaction I got told me I need to go back to the drawing board. So occasionally, you get your feedback. For better or worse, but I've helped out because she does some, writing, and she has a site, Southern Spines, with like book reviews. So my kind of guys' corner book reviews occasionally appear on there. So we're kind of able to help each other out. I mean, I wouldn't have anything online if it weren't for her help. So they would just be, I don't know what there would be. My site would probably look like AOL in the 90s. That's probably what I'd have right now.
Do you read and edit each other's work?
Occasionally, although editing is a funny thing. I pretty much anything I post, I might read it a couple times. Actually, if it's an interview that somebody else that I'm highlighting them, that's when I'll give it a closer look. But if something I'm posting, I'm just like, all right, there we go. I mean, for blog purposes, that's kind of how I do it.
Editing is the worst. Tasha, do you like to edit? Editing's the worst.
I do, because I'm huge on grammar, and a lot of times people will always send me their stuff and say, oh, can you read this over and tell me what you think and what you would change? And grammar, they know I'm a big stickler about grammar, so that's why they always come to me.
Oh, yeah? Well, I see, you should never have told me that.
Yeah, no, you got a new best friend.
Yeah, Zach knows this. I grudgingly do it. It's not my favorite thing in the world, although I do recognize and understand how important it is. Listen, I love having a copywriter. I love having someone who can help me with editing, and as Zach will tell you, I have utilized his services on more than one occasion to help me edit something, especially if it's something that I'm writing about from a personal level. I think that you have to recognize that you can get too married to your work, and it helps to have an objective person taking a look at it.
You're absolutely
right. And the point of writing is to have someone read it, and then, when someone else gives you your feedback, it's almost always going to help out, because the editor can give you specific feedback on what to work with, and if you're just kind of no echo, no feedback, then you're not going to know how to improve in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's always great to bounce things off other people, and so I love having that option. I'm not the best. I actually like to edit other people's work, though, and I do. I've become an editor. Zach knows this at Pro Player Insiders, and so the process of editing other people's work is way more enjoyable to me than it is. But I don't like to listen to myself either, right? I mean, I force myself a lot of times to go back and listen to my old shows just because I want to get better, and I want to recognize those areas that I do need to improve. But that's an area that I struggle with, is actually reading my work and listening to myself, because I don't even like the sound of my voice.
Your voice is just fine, Sharona. Everybody loves a country girl. Just remember that.
You're sweet. I'm so country. It's funny. I recognize when I get real country on the show. So did you are you going to do another? Are you going to write another book and publish it online?
I don't know. It's kind of slowed down the interviews. I mean, I could probably get 101 to 150 once I reach there, but I'm not sure. I just didn't get a lot of response to it. It did all right. I mean, I don't know. I didn't exactly expect to be a bestseller, but it does take some work and effort to get it out there, so it might have to be something different. I noticed that a lot of the fantasy football people I follow that post books, it's not. Usually here's stuff that I've already put out on the internet. It's something new, so I have to put something new together to do that. And it's got to be, it's the inspiration for something that can be book length.
Yeah, it's interesting publishing and working in the digital age, so to speak. But now you're actually going through a job search in the digital age. Tell us about that. What's that like?
Horribly unfun. I mean, the only part, it's kind of, reaching out to people. Networking is the key. I mean, the last job I got to somebody in my fantasy football league, and I'm such a serial monogamous when it comes to jobs. I've had 3 jobs since 1997, so I just pretty much stay all the way. So the whole job search thing is just new and odd, and interviewing is weird. I think I like to interview other people, but then when it's me, I'm like, oh no, I got to talk about myself, and you have to carefully craft your answers and your resume, and it seems like the process is very far from efficient, because you kind of have to not only catch the right opportunity, you have to catch it at the right time. Like a job that might fit you perfectly, you find out about it 2 days after they got another candidate. I had an interview scheduled once, and they actually canceled as I was about to get in my car because they just decided to hire somebody else, and I didn't even get a chance. So you just don't know how it goes. It can be frustrating, but it's just coming up with a bit of a routine, what to do, and it's supposed to be an opportunity for me to find out what I want to be when I grow up, and see about that.
Now, have your interviews all been in person, or I'm seeing this movement to do Skype interviews and things like that. Tell us about that.
It usually ends up in person, but yeah, it seems like you go through, maybe it's like internet dating in a way, like at least when I did it, way back in the day, it was, you had to kind of email through the system, and then you had your own personal email, and then you got to a phone call, then you finally got to in person. So they usually do, you start with phone calls, and then you get the interview and the dreaded, multi-person interview, because I did one of those last year where I spent like half a day interviewing with a bunch of different people and didn't even get the job offer. So it was like, oh man, you really do have to put a lot of effort into it, and you don't know what you're going to get out of it. But you have to remember it's a two-way street. Like, I'm always like, oh, you have to, do you like me? Do you like me? It's like, well, I need to like them too, because it's a big deal. I mean, this is a third, if not more, of your life, So
I have a question for you, Zach. Since there's so many, it's about to be the graduating season for a lot of college students. What's the one biggest piece of advice you give to them, since you're deep in it right now?
Oh gosh. I really think it's networking. I mean, if there's something you want to do, find someone who's an expert or doing it and ask for their advice. I mean, that's one thing I've learned through doing interviews is almost everybody I've asked in the fantasy football space, I mean, it is a niche in a way, but most everybody's agreed to an interview or they've been really good about answering questions. So it's like, if you can find someone who is doing what you want to do, talk to that person and find groups. I mean, you don't even have to go in person. There are plenty of online, networking opportunities. You can even go to Facebook and type in pretty much anything, and there's going to be a group for it, for better or worse. So it's like, find out as much as you can. I mean, when I interviewed now, they don't guess that you might know something about the company. They assume you've researched the company and the person you're talking to, because you just look on LinkedIn or you Google them and you find information.
Isn't that crazy?
Information is key right now.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to ask you, Zach. One of the things that that most job hunt counselors will tell you is to do your research and know the company. Do you get a lot of specific questions like that about the company that you're interviewing for?
Well, they want you to know about it. I mean, I haven't never with my jobs considered like, oh, what industry am I working in? But when you interview in a particular industry, then you need to have some information about what kind of company it is, what kind of culture. People were even asking me, I mean, this wasn't an interview, but it was like a coach kind of question, like, well, what do you want the office you work at to look for? I didn't really think that much about it, but there are all these details to consider. And you just know that these days there isn't the 30-year and the gold watch kind of job anymore. You're going to find something new, or companies change all the time. I just finished working for a company that went through being sold like twice while I was there. So there's always going to be changes, and you just have to be ready. So one thing I'm getting out of this is, even if I do get a job, I have to keep searching.
What's the most surprising question that you've been asked?
I wish I'd written them all down. In a way, sometimes I'm surprised when they ask the questions you think they're going to ask, like, what are you going to be in 5 years, or what's your greatest strength or weakness, or what would your coworkers say about you? I haven't had too many that have been off the wall. They've been really kind of straight on. I remember my last interview, I actually talked for like 10 minutes about my site and fantasy football interviews, and I was like, I wonder if this is good or bad, because now he's going to go see my site and like, oh, I wrote about drinking. Is that good? I don't know. So if someone digs enough, they're going to find out stuff about anybody, and it's just a matter of whether that's going to be relevant for them or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very interesting. One quick question before we let you get out of here. So Allison is working. You're not working. How does it feel to be a kept man?
It feels great. Not gonna,
it's a good gig if you can get it, right?
The assumption is it's going to be a two-income household very soon, so that's what the goal is, really. It's a team effort. There's no I in team, so we're both contributing to the greater good, and searching for that championship. Boom.
Well, obviously you're a fantasy writer. Are we finally through with that one mock that we both been participating? It had to be the longest mock ever.
Yeah, that would be a great time killer for our next show. Is like, let's talk about that 30-round mock draft. That's like the second longest draft I've ever done in my life. And I don't know, sometimes you like things in concept but not in practice. It's like, oh, cool, I like doing a draft with defensive players, because do you see anybody who does fantasy baseball who does team pitcher? No. So team defense in football, I've always not liked it, although I know it's a shortcut most people deal with. So I like that, but it just adds more positions. In a 30-round draft, when it's a mock and you're not really going to do anything with it, after a while you're like, oh, it's kind of cool to see where players are going. And then it's like, okay, all right, can it end? Oh, I have to pick a kicker. Wee, kickers. That was one of my favorite things from last year, is all but like 2 leagues I was in, they got rid of kickers. And I'm sorry, kickers are people too, I understand. But just because, like, you have to put long snapper in your fantasy team, I mean, you don't have to put every position there.
Yeah.
The guy handing out water for the Titans is really efficient. You should have him on your fantasy team. I mean, I don't know. Where does it end?
I don't like playing in leagues anymore that have place kickers either, and the team defenses are going the way of the IDPs. So it's very interesting. How many fantasy teams are you going to have this year, and how many are going to be named Penile Pump?
Oh, gosh. See, those are things that came up on your show. I'm like, we've never had hot kiss talk on our show, or little Darren Sharper, that kind of stuff. Thank you for no basketball talk. But it's like, oh, there's some good subjects out there. Yeah, these are gonna top some of the previous year. I mean, anything involving Manziel will be quality. It's hard to say, because I'm in one long-term local keeper league, and I'm in one long-term dynasty league, and I actually handed over the commissioner reins, so I'm just a member. So whatever else pops up, I always get a bunch of invites to be in leagues, and it's like, oh, it's cool to be invited, and I want to be one of the cool kids. And then it's like, oh, I have to set lineups, and I have to draft. You have to be really selective about it.
It's like a second job. It can be extremely time-consuming. So what's up next for Zach? What are you working on? Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, that kind of stuff.
Well, what's up is I do this weekly show with Sharona, and I call it Going for Two with Sharona and Zach, not Zach and Sharona, but, it's however you want to order it. Weekly sports talk, but I'm not on your level. We've already talked about this. Zach Law Online. I've been posting. I'm going to try to get more, a little bit of the beer posting in there, but I've been doing some kind of combination of life stuff with all this job stuff and the fantasy with these kind of mock drafts, and I do the, Ask Your Fantasy Football Expert. People got tired of being called experts, so now I title for them. This week it's Ray Summerlin, who does the Rummy and Ray podcast, and he's on Roto World as well. So that just actually posted this morning. I'm trying to at least keep up. You'd think with it being off-season, people have more time, but I think people are kind of hiding until maybe a week or two when the actual NFL draft comes up. But we'll keep doing the show and keep doing interviews, and just kind of like whatever I feel like posting goes out. That's kind of the Zach Law Online creed, and ZACH_LAW on Twitter. That's pretty much the way to find me for everything.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning, Zach. Really appreciate it. Zach is a great guy. Definitely follow him out there in the Twitter sphere. Natasha, thanks to you as well. The hour and a half always goes by so fast. Tell everybody where they can find you. Give a big shout out to your website. And what are you working on?
Well, right now I'm just working with BSO, and I have my website, which is sportstalktasha.com. You can find me on Twitter at sportstalktosh. And just find me. I'm always around with BSO covering different events and doing different things. So I'm not sure what event I will cover next, but as soon as I know, the Twitter will know as well.
Well, thanks again, and thanks for listening out there. I'm Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter, Sports by Sharona. We'll be back Wednesday with another episode of Sharona Unfiltered. On Friday, Game Over with Vasti and Sharona. Wednesday night, Going for Two with Zach and Sharona. Have a very great day and a great week, and we will talk soon.
Thanks so much, Sharona.
Girl is on fire.